Hey guys, it's Brady. I am making a quick video on how to get a good job. I've been asked by this by a lot of people, and I've been giving out this advice kind of independently, individually. I just thought it would be easier to just make an entire video that covers this from top to bottom, how I would get a job in any country. This doesn't matter if you're in Tunisia, if you're in America. These are tips that all will help you with all employers, with all positions. And really, it's just kind of figuring out what that company would ideally like and showing yourself to be that kind of person, if that's true of you. And so I'm going to kind of cover some of the things that I've seen. And specifically in Tunisia, I'll hit some things that I think are, we call it low-hanging fruit, meaning most people are not doing this well. And so you will immediately stand out really well to the competition applying for the same job. So let's start with your CV. All right. As an employer here, we will put out job postings and say, hey, please send us an English CV, and we're giving a job description. And you will not believe how many people send us a French CV, especially if it's like exclusively saying, please send us an English CV. There are some roles, like admin type roles, where we probably get 30 to 40% of the people who apply just send us a French CV. Now, this shows me a couple things. One, they either didn't pay attention to the bold or like capitalized piece on the front and the back end of the request for a CV, clearly asking for an English CV. So they either didn't see that, pay attention, means they're not detail oriented nearly enough to actually take this role, or two, they chose to ignore it thinking, oh, my French CV will be fine. They probably can read French, which also is a really bad, like they're completely disregarding something we're explicitly requesting then. This is just one little example, but my point here being, don't just use a standard CV and send it off to a bunch of people. This is a huge mistake. So what you want to do from the very get-go is identify 10 companies or 10 positions that you really want to work for. These are not just like, oh, I know I could get this job, let me just try it. But companies that the job might be, you could do 90% of it, you're pretty confident, but maybe there's a 10% you would need to learn. You can apply for those, and those are the kind of jobs you actually want to get because they are jobs you can grow into a little bit, you can learn. And most of the time, companies are okay with that amount of, needing to learn. So it's a step up for you, it's a move up for you. And usually it's going to be a better job than what you have currently. When it comes to your CV for that position, let's say you have 10 jobs you're interviewing for. You want to create 10 unique CVs for those specific job profiles they're looking for. So if they're asking in English or in French, you want to make it in those languages. You want to highlight specifically how you fit the roles from the job description that they're looking for, or the skill set or the characteristics. So for example, if there's an IT role you really want, right? And they are like, we need a Python developer who knows Docker, who can work this time slot. In your CV, you want to highlight how you're a Python developer, you have experience in Docker, and you love working that time slot. And in all of the job experience you have, even if it's small, you want to highlight those pieces that are true of those skills, of that skill set and what they're looking for. Essentially, without lying, you want to look at the job description and get your CV to match as closely as you can what that job description looks like and help them see, I am a good fit for this position and here is why. Everything you're looking for, I have, right? Now, again, you do not want to lie. Don't lie because the employer will find out and then you'll probably lose the job. But it's not bad to emphasize how you could be a good fit for that role. And so I would do that really well. Just really quickly, there's a position that I got when I first applied for the Coca-Cola position that I had as a marketing manager. There were a handful of things that were outside of my skill set, but there was enough that I took from a lot of different industries, sales positions, just when I was a server, and highlighting how I had to upsell things. And we had, sales quotas we were trying to hit, and we'd have sales competitions and how I would win those. That didn't make me really a salesperson necessarily. That was not my role. I was a server, but I was highlighting these sales skills that I had from other industries. Does that make sense? So that would be one, is match your CV to the job description for each position you're applying to. Don't use just a generic job description, because guess what? A generic job description looks like a generic job description. And employers, especially in Tunisia, for good positions, are getting a lot of applicants. I can honestly say for certain roles that we put out for, we get 30 to 40 applicants probably in a single day. And so if we are running the job ad for 4 or 5 days a week, if you don't stand out, you won't probably get an interview. And your whole goal is to stand out to get an interview. All right. So let's say you make those 10 CV submissions. I guarantee you, if you do that first part right, you will probably have at least two, at least here in Tunisia, at least two that will call you up for an interview. Probably more, but at least two. So now you've got this interview lined up. There's some now new tips, all right? You want to overdress for the interview. Overdress.
I've been sitting out there for the last half hour trying to come up with a story that would explain my being here dressed like this. And I wanted to come up with a story that would demonstrate qualities that I'm sure you all admire here, like earnestness or diligence and team playing to something. And I couldn't think of anything.
What would you say if a guy walked in for an interview without a shirt on? And I hired him. What would you say?
He must have had on some really nice pants.
So I'll just give an example from my life as well. When I was in college, I applied to work at Applebee's. It's basically like Chili's. It's a server role. And everybody knows what the servers wear at Chili's, right? But I'm not going to wear that to the interview or underdress from that. What did I do? I overdressed. I wore a button-down shirt with a tie clip and cufflinks, and I got a fresh haircut. I made sure I looked really, really good. Why? I'm trying to show the employer, the manager, the hiring manager, whoever it is, that I'm really serious about the role. They know, I know, I'm not going to wear that when I'm a server, but I'm trying to show that I'm professional, that I'm taking this very seriously, and that I really want to work for them. And that's what that's going to communicate. I would highlight, if you're doing an online interview, still overdress. They're still going to pay attention to how you dress and how you present yourself. And this presentation is very important. You want to come off looking professional and looking like you really care about the interview and what's going to happen. Second, be ready for the common questions with answers. So in interviews, there are almost always 10 to 20 questions that are in so many interviews. You can look these up online. And what you could do is you can prepare yourself for those questions. You just think ahead. You kind of consider, okay, they'll probably ask me this, they'll probably ask me this. How will I respond? And how will I respond well? And just practice a little bit. What this will do is this will set you up for success once you're in the interview. They're going to ask you probably 80% of the questions you can be prepared for, and you could crush the interview.
Mr. Madison, the Industrial Revolution changed the face of the modern novel forever. Discuss, citing specific examples.
Come on. Okay. The Industrial Revolution to me is just like a story I know called The Puppy Who Lost His Way.
In America, most people don't do this very well, and I know in Tunisia people don't, like at all. There have been we've had, at this point, hundreds of interviews, and I don't know if I've had a single interviewee who was ready with some of the more basic questions. Some of them answer them fine. That's not really what I'm saying, but most of the questions we're asking were pretty standard questions, and in every interview there were some basic questions that people had to think about, to answer really well. So be ready with those questions. That's really easy, a way to prepare for those interviews to really just kill them. The other thing, this is a smaller point, but make sure you're on time for the interview. This is like in my mind, from American work culture, a basic. You get there early to make sure that you do not miss the interview. And I would say no less than 5 minutes early. Do whatever you can to block off your time to make sure that you are going to be early to the interview, even if it's online. You do not want to be late. Just because of the amount of people we have interviewing for certain positions, if they are late to an interview or they don't show up, oftentimes we completely move on from them. Because if they can't, structure their time well enough to be ready for an interview to get a job, they're probably not responsible enough with their time or careful enough with their time to handle basic time management in a company. Like that's what that communicates to me, and that's usually probably true. Sometimes they'll email a little bit late with some kind of excuse, and if we really, really, really like them, we might give them a second chance, but that is a huge risk. It's up to you, just don't be late to an interview. It's a terrible way to start. So that would be some of the highlights there. In the interview, you'll probably have an opportunity to share why you want to work for the company or what interested you in the position or something like that. And in those opportunities, you want to highlight why you really value the company and you want to work for them specifically, not just generally in the field, not just, I really liked some of the social media posts you guys have. You look like you have a cool work culture. You want it to be about why you respect them as a company and you really want to work for them. Highlight that. That will be really, really good. And then also highlighting your work ethic. All companies are looking for hard workers. If they're not, they're a terrible company. So every company is looking for somebody that will be able to work, diligently, work hard. And especially if you've got that 10%, right, that you still need to learn, this will be that way to show, hey, I might not have 100% of the skill and the know-how for this role like you might be looking for, but I've got the drive, the passion, the eagerness to learn that will fill in the gaps very quickly, and then I will be an asset to you. You don't necessarily have to say it like that, but you want to help reflect your work ethic and your passion to them. Once you get the job, right, or even kind of leading up to getting the job, you want to make sure you're doing the small things well. The small things really matter. And so let's talk about leading up to the job, because this is all about you trying to get the job, but getting the small things right. So I already used the example of like, hey, we need an English CV, just paying attention to that, right? Or let's say they give you kind of a small list of, hey, we want, an English CV, we'd like a cover letter, send us a small video of you just introducing yourself. If you only do 2/3 of that, you're not doing the basics well. You can't expect to get a job there. But if you do all those and you do them well, your chances just go up dramatically. You don't have to be this, amazing actor to land every job. You just have to do the basics well and display yourself well, display your work habits and your experience well. And most people just don't do that. The other thing, this is the final tip, is to keep engaged. There's this term that's really trendy now called top of mind. And if you are applying to a good job, the likelihood that there are hundreds of other people applying is very high. So you want to stay top of mind. You want to stand out and you want to be remembered. You want to be constantly on the forefront of their mind. And so what I would do is send my CV. If you don't hear from them, you can even send a quick email to the hiring manager or whoever you're in contact with. Hey, I just sent my CV. I'm really excited to hear back from you guys, right? Something small like that, a little note, just intentionally. And then if you don't hear back from them in about 2 days, I would follow up and send another communication, whether it's via email or if you're talking to them on LinkedIn or a platform like that. Follow up with them and say, hey, just wanted to check in, follow up. Have you had a chance to look at my CV? I would love to talk further about this position. This position really excites me and I can see my future here. Something simple like that. And I think that just will help if you already are considered good. It will help keep you on the top and the forefront of the mind of the hiring manager or whoever's looking through the CVs, so that when they're looking to set interviews, you're one of the first ones they're thinking about. Those are my main tips for getting hired. And I guarantee you, if you do those well, you will be able to get jobs that are probably past, what you actually could get, just normally. There's a lot of people in Tunisia who do not apply well. They kind of just get a degree, make a generic CV, and hope for the best. Just blast it out to lots of people. I've had so many people who blast out their CV. I'm in a blind carbon copy email. There's been some times where they didn't blind carbon copy. It just went out to everybody, and I saw there's like 100 other people on this list. What that means to me is they don't care about working for my company. They just are hoping for something, right? And the lack of intentionality, the lack of drive to find the one company they really want to work for, the one position they really want to work for, just communicates to me this is not really a great hire. It's not really a great employee. So I'll also just leave you with this. I've had tons of jobs throughout my life. I'm only like 33. I just started working very young, and have moved, and with different transitions, college, things like that, coming back from college. I've worked a lot of different positions. I had a very high rate of getting interviews in the jobs that I applied for because I was doing this. In the jobs or in the positions I got an interview for, I have yet to have gotten a job, have not gotten a job offer from one of the interviews. Every interview I've had, I've been offered the position. And again, this just comes from basic preparation. It's not because I'm amazing. It's not because I have all of these skills or anything like that. I am very average when it comes to an American workforce and education skill set, but I prepared and I was ready and I could then respond really well, and I looked professional. I showed like I took care and time to make sure I did this right. And that really matters in the job industry. Having a degree in the field almost means nothing. Everybody else that's applying probably has that same thing. So you're not looking to look like, hey, I can do this. You need to stand out.
It's a piece of cake.
And really to stand out does not require very much. It's usually just intentionality and a little bit of forethought planning. So I'll leave with you that. If you guys have questions, you probably have my contact. Email me, text me, message me. I'd be happy to help you. But those are my main things to help give you guys the best chance of success of getting a really good job and positioning yourself to get a job you can move up into.